The Senate GOP finally released the HEALS Act, their next stimulus bill. Lots of rumors about what's in it. I'll tell you what's in it and then whether there's even a chance of this thing passing. That and the details coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I am the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners and owners right here at Cohorn Financial Group. Welcome. If you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. Share this as well. Lots of rumors going on. The Republican Senate finally released their stimulus bill called the HEALS Act. Lots of rumors going on. It's still sort of in rumor mode, but I'm going to tell you what we know and whether this thing even has a chance of passing and what the timeline is. So what you need to know first and foremost is there's another round of direct payments. Pretty much the exact same formula as before, but with one significant improvement in my opinion. So we're looking at $1,200 per adult as long as your income is below $75,000 per person or $150,000 married filing jointly. And then there's a phase out beyond that. So it's not all or nothing. If you're above those limits, it begins to phase out. Dependent children, this is an improvement. There's actually in the plan still another $500 for every dependent child. However, they defined dependent child before as you needed to be younger than 17. So if you're college students and you're seniors in high school, they got cut out of the last stimulus bill. I believe this was unintended, but what a mistake. You've got families that are helping their kids in college and those families don't receive stimulus money for those kids. What a mistake. But now, so those dependents on your tax return, even if they're age 17 or older, as long as they're dependents, apparently the HEALS Act says they qualify for stimulus, and that gives them an extra $500 under the HEALS Act proposal. Here's what you're not going to like. Apparently this created the dysfunction, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is what will make it hard for this thing to actually pass and become law. And that is, of course, the additional unemployment assistance. Lots of strong opinions on both sides. And listen, if you've been unemployed, if you're unemployed, you've got a strong opinion. Continue the extra $600 a week. However, you look at financially, this is the biggest deficit. We're on track to have the biggest deficit since World War II in this country. And you might say it's justified. It's a global pandemic. I understand, but at least politicians are looking at this saying, well, is that the right level of support or not? And so the HEALS Act proposal has the $600 a week that's gone at the end of this month, but due to logistics is basically gone last week Sunday, is my understanding. The extra $600 a week is done. The proposal will add an additional $200 a week for August and September, and then after September, it will drop it down to be a 70% replacement of your previous wages. I have no idea how in the world they're going to do that. But if 70% of your previous wages would mean you should be getting more than an additional $200, apparently it will go all the way up to an additional $500 a week. So, does this make any sense? You've got $600 extra per week that's about to run out. It's going to drop to $200 extra per week for the next 2 months, and then it will change again. And it could, for many people, could go up from $200 all the way up to a $500 cap. Makes no sense. To me, that seems way too complicated for this thing to actually pass. It does. It's already a contentious point. You've got politicians on both sides of the aisle. I mean, obviously, Democrats and Republicans broadly see this differently, but even within the Republican camp, apparently there's widespread dislike over this proposal. It's too confusing, and so this is going to make this thing hard to pass. All right, I shared last week when the rumors came out that any additional round of small business lending or PPP better be a new program as opposed to just an extension of the old program. Well, they did. They've come out with the sequel PPP. Now, this isn't PPP 2.0 or whatever. It's the sequel. I can't even keep this stuff straight anymore. But essentially, it would be another PPP loan, okay? less than $200 billion. So in my opinion, it could go very quickly. But the big sticking point is your business, in order to qualify, needs to have less than 300 employees and needs to have seen a 50% revenue drop in order to be eligible for this PPP sequel. Now, a lot of businesses are hurting still, but as at least the folks that I know, many have recovered and they're not on track for a 50% drop. So if this act actually becomes law, we'll see how much of this $200 billion actually gets used up. If it is turned into law, I am totally in favor of this. I mean, obviously, you've isolated those businesses that really, really need the aid, and so to have another round of PPP that's forgivable to them, those that are hurting the most, I think that's a good idea. I mean, unless unless that business isn't going to survive, then it could be delaying the inevitable. We'll see. Another part of the small business aid within the HEALS Act is another round of employee retention credits. So it has the same purpose of the PPP, but a employee retention credit is basically a credit up to a higher amount now, not up to $10,000, but up to $30,000 of wages against payroll taxes, could even receive a tax refund for these small businesses. So I don't have all the details. We'll hit that in a later video if this thing passes, but just know that they've kept that employee retention credit around, but they've changed it. They've enhanced it a little bit. Your revenue drop doesn't need to be as severe, and the payroll that counts should be a little bit higher. What else do we know? There's some money in here for schools and universities. I didn't see how closely it's tied to forcing them to reopen. And if it's not connected to forcing them to have kids in the classroom, that might mean this thing is less politicized. But what's missing is aid to municipalities. The HEROES Act that was passed by the House back in May had $1 trillion set aside for state and local governments. The entire HEALS Act is only $1 trillion. So that could be a big sticking point as well, depending on constituents and so on. So there's language in there about student loans and how if your income is below or you're in a distressed situation, there is some forgiveness. But right now it's rumor mill and not many details about exactly what the proposal is. And I would even tell you it's not what many people expected when it comes to student loan and forgiveness. So there you have it. Those are the high-level details. Understand how it applies to you, but does this thing have a snowball's chance of even passing? So Congress is set to recess August 7th. That gives us, what do we got, 2 weeks for them to negotiate and pass this thing. I do not think it's a fast-track pass like we saw with the CARES Act. And even Mitch McConnell yesterday said, we'll start negotiations from this. You've got Democratic leaders. Schumer said, no way, this is a done deal. We're not even talking about this. We'll see. As you know, this is an election year, and there's a popularity contest coming in November. So we'll see whether the HEALS Act is actually something they negotiate and can pass, or whether this is just positioning for campaign trail. We'll see. We'll see. I personally think they're going to have a hard time getting it passed this week before the unemployment assistance officially runs out. I think there's a chance it has a hard time passing before the 7th. Will they delay their recess? We'll see. We'll see. Stay here for all these details. Understand how it applies to you. Reach out to your certified financial planner. Ask any questions that you have about whether you should be making changes right now or not. You can always reach out to a CFP on our team. You can find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with a K, or send us an email, info@Korhorn.com. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.